Welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead. My name is Kelly, and on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. On Fridays, I like to do a freeze-dry video. On Sundays, I like to do a garden or food preservation video. And on Tuesdays, I like to do a cook with me video. Today is Tuesday, so welcome to another edition of Tasty Tuesday. Today, I am going to be making something because I have some leftover corn tortillas. I had family here for the last 10 days. Or they were here for 10 days and they recently left. We made the most amazing steak street tacos using the griddle grill. And I have some corn tortillas left. And this is not something I normally buy or have in the house. So I want to get these used up. So I went up to my pantry and I pulled out some ingredients that is going to make a phenomenal steak enchilada casserole. And this is going to be one of those start to serve in 30 minutes or less. And let's get cooking. All right, what I've got going here is I've got 3 cloves of garlic minced. The recipe called for 2. I like garlic. I like the flavor of garlic as well as the health properties. I've got half of a medium onion diced. For spices, I have 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of black pepper. I have 2 cups of jack cheese shredded, 2 cups of white cheddar. You can use any cheddar you'd like. You can even use different types of cheeses, shredded. I have 1 store-bought can of diced tomatoes. It's a Rotel. I don't have any home preserved diced tomatoes on my shelf. I'll be rectifying that this year. I've got some home canned enchilada sauce that I made last summer. I have some home canned black beans. I'm going to be using, the recipe calls for about half of this container. I'm going to go a little light on this because not everybody likes beans. I have 2 quarts of round steak that I canned up in 2022 with some onions. So I'm going to be using both of those. You can use a pound of ground beef in place of this. And then I have some fire roasted green chilies that I freeze dried last year. I'm going to be using some of these as well. You can substitute, you can use substitutions, you can use store-bought, especially for the meat. You probably don't have, 2 quarts of pressure cooked round steak, but like I said, you can use ground beef for that. So I'm going to get started by just cooking up the onions and the garlic in some home rendered tallow. And if you're using ground beef, you would also do that at the same time. So I'm just going to get a little fat in the pan. And if you've been here recently, you know I should be wearing my finger splints because the tips of my fingers are broken, but it is just so cumbersome that we're just going to try not to hurt ourselves. We're going to stay away from the tips. I've got my skillet set to a medium high. I've got my oven preheating to 375 degrees. That ought to do it. I'm going to go ahead and get my onions in there to get started. And the garlic I'll add in just a minute. I don't want my garlic to burn, so I want the onions almost done by the time I add the garlic. And once this gets going, I'll turn it down as well. All right, I'm just going to give these a stir. And now that that fat has rendered down and the onions are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and turn that heat down just a little bit. And I'm going to start opening some of my jars. So I'm going to be putting in the round steak soon. So I'm going to take the lids off of these. All right, you saw me take the ring off. I've explained this before. I store my rings on my food jars. I just put it on there. I have hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds of them, and I don't really have storage for them. So I put them back on the jar. I just don't cinch it down so that if the lid were to fail, I wouldn't know that it failed. those definitely hadn't failed. All right, I've got a bowl here. And I'm gonna pour the steak through a sieve, just a fine mesh sieve here, because I don't want all the juice in my pan. And I don't want all of those onions either. I'd rather have the fresh onions than the ones that were pressure cooked. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that garlic in here now. Get that cooking in there just until it's fragrant. That's looking good. It's smelling good already. All right, next I am going to add my beans and get those heated up in there as well. That's plenty for my house. And then I'm going to add these tomatoes, and I'm going to throw the juice of the tomatoes in there as well. As I carefully, very carefully open this can, so that the juice from this is going to rehydrate my freeze-dried peppers. And I don't want that juice evaporating until I have some peppers in there. So I'm going to get some of those in. And pour the juice right on top. And then we're just going to get that mixed together. Looks and smells really good. The colors are really fun. We eat with our eyes as much as our mouths. All right, the round steak. So this is round steak that I bought in bulk, and I just sliced it down and then pressure canned it. I found the recipe on a YouTube tutorial. So I'm just gonna shred this up a bit and put it in here. I found that I didn't like the flavor of these steaks right out of the jar and heat it up. I just didn't like it. They tasted over-processed. But I found that I really did love them in enchiladas, so that's what I use them for exclusively now. And I would probably, when I'm finished with the jars that I have, which I think I still have 4 or 5 jars of this left, I would definitely make this again because it's really flavorful as a Mexican dish ingredient. Just taking off all those onions. They've just been overcooked. And now this is going to cook in the pan, and then it's going to cook in the oven. That's why I did fresh onions. And once all the ingredients are in here, I'm just going to simmer this for 5 minutes. By that time, the oven should be preheated to 375 degrees, and we're going to get this layered into a casserole dish and bake it for 25 minutes. Let it sit for a few minutes, and dinner is done. How easy was that? My idea of fast food and delicious food and healthy, nutritious food is stuff that I've pre-made and canned or freeze-dried, ready to eat. Let me just get this mixed in. I'm gonna add my spices now. This looks amazing. right, I'm just gonna let that simmer for 5 minutes while I clean this mess up. All right, those spices have melded in with the food now, so I'm gonna go ahead and add this enchilada sauce. This is enchilada sauce from last year's tomatoes. I'm going to save just a little bit to pour over the top. So almost 2 pints into the pan. We'll save about a third of that as a pour over. Just looking to heat this through at this point. From start to serve in 30 with a wow factor. This smells incredible. All right. Next step, I do not have a 9x13 pan. Go figure. I have a much bigger pan and I have this somewhat smaller pan. This is the pan I'm gonna go with. If I had more corn tortillas, I'd use the bigger pan. I'm gonna grease this, and for simplicity, I'm just gonna spray it with a nonstick spray. I have 8 tortillas, so I'm gonna put 4 on the bottom. Overlapping them just a little. They can come up the sides just a little as well, that's fine. I'm gonna turn this off. This is good to go. Give it one last stir here. Now, this is a casserole versus your traditional rolled enchiladas. Corn tortilla shells are the traditional way of making enchiladas versus flour tortilla shells, but they're notorious, especially the ones you buy from the grocery store if you're using them just out of the package, they're notorious for cracking. So this method of using them and cooking them, you're gonna get the same phenomenal flavor from the product as you would if you had rolled it, but you're not gonna get the cracking. This is gonna be more like a lasagna. All right, so I'm gonna spoon about half the mixture on top of these. That's what I'm talking about. I'm gonna do half the cheese. So this is the cheddar, and this is organic white cheddar that I get from Azure Standard, and that organic Monterey Jack that I get from Azure Standard. I love their cheeses. Talk about comfort food, but also simple. Today is a work day, and I worked until 5, and I don't really feel like spending an hour in the kitchen prepping and getting dinner ready. So I love these start to serve in 30-minute meals. All right, cheese is layered. We're gonna go back in with more of the corn tortillas, and we're just gonna repeat that process. And I'm gonna pour just a little extra enchilada sauce over the top. Let's talk a little bit about the nutrition. So we added some black beans in here, and black beans have a dietary fiber called resistant starch, which don't break down in the small intestine. So they enter the colon in their whole form, which causes fermentation by your gut microbiota, making it healthier. And that in turn reduces systemic inflammation in your body. Onions help you reduce your risk of heart disease and certain cancers. They promote digestive health, which also improves your immune function. Garlic boosts your immune system, lowers blood pressure, lowers cholesterol, reduces risk of dementia. And garlic basically works to detoxify your body. Now this dish is a lot faster for me because I'm using already cooked ingredients that I had home canned. If you were starting with some raw ground beef, it might take you just a little bit longer. Still worth it for those extra 5 minutes. All right, there's the cheddar. I'm gonna pour a little enchilada sauce on here now. And then we're gonna top with the rest of the Monterey Jack. And because my pan is smaller, I definitely have more height to it, definitely more like a lasagna with multiple layers. It's gonna be incredible. I'm gonna try to get the cheese off the edge of the pan because everything burns on the edges of these if you don't get it off. All right, this is gonna go into the oven for 25 minutes. I will bring you back as soon as that's done. That's our 25-minute timer. This should be done. Let's take a look. Oh, that looks great. I'm gonna turn this off. Looks amazing. All right, we'll get this cut up, plate it up, and give it a taste test. Here we go. I like mine with a little sour cream on top, but you can see all the different layers in there with the tortillas and the beef mixture with the cheeses in there. This looks great. This smells great. And I love knowing that the ingredients in here are almost all homemade. Next, I'm going to work on, well, I'm going to continue working on homemade corn tortillas. I have the nixtamal corn and I keep trying, and so far I haven't found a recipe that works for me, but I'm not giving up. Once I perfect that, I'll be making home corn tortillas on my channel as well. Let's give this a try. That enchilada sauce is delicious. This, I think, is the ball recipe for enchilada sauce, I think. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. It is outstanding. The cheeses are melted in here. They taste amazing. The steak in here does not taste like it was pre-canned. It's delicious. There's just a few beans in here, which adds a nice texture and even flavor in here as well. This is wonderful comfort food. And not only was this easy, nutritious, and delicious, but it's another start to serve in under 30 minutes. Perfect for a busy weeknight. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen again. My name is Kelly. You're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.